looking out, keep getting clout. This is what it's about. We love teaching. There is no time. They programmed your mind. Construction blind. We not sleeping. Come join the love, come join the fun, and call it education. Let's get profound. Let's uncover all of the deep, arcane things. Good looking out, good looking out, good looking out with no parachute. Come join the love, come join the fun, and call it education. Let's get profound, let's uncover all of the deep, arcane things. Good looking out, good looking out, good looking out with no parachute. Good looking out, good looking out, good looking out with no parachute. Diego, we gon' go. Diego, we gon' go. Diego, we gon' go with no parachute. Let's go. We going to go with no parachute. Let's go. Go. Let's go!
Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Hotep. Namaste. Jambo. Ashe. Yatahe. Shalom. I think I said shalom. Shalom. All the greetings of love and light to the darkest minds of the light. I am Napashada. So if you're tuned into the right place. Peace and love to you, Afu Nation. Peace and love from Denver. So peace and love back to you, Lonel King, Caleb. Yes, of course. Peace to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Can you hear me clearly right now before I get started? Just let me know, somebody. Yes, peace. All right. Peace, infinite energy source 7. Everybody can hear me okay, right? Because I'm about to undo some of the misleadings of this particular so-called critical study that was done. I finally got around to being able to start to cover this. So I'm going to go through step by step this presentation that was done on Paradigm Shift TV. Shout out to DMG. So go subscribe if you haven't already, and subscribe to my channel and the HOK channels, whatever channels that you are interested in hearing these type of discussions / debates. Peace. Thank you, Immortal Dragon. Okay, so let's get right to it. Before I share this presentation that was done in Paradigm Shift TV, I want to make it clear that anyone can go and study anything. Let me say that again. Anyone can go and study anything. You don't have to be a professor to do studies. You don't have to be a biblical expert to do these studies. You don't have to be, all you have to do is know how to read and follow the dots. Get it? When I say follow the dots, I mean go into the text, look at the origins of the text, find out the meanings of the words, and you pretty much can figure out what's going on. Peace bar reloaded, right? So anybody can do this. It's not like this isn't. I'm not into gatekeeping like what you're going to hear on this particular presentation that I'm going to be critiquing. All this stuff about people don't understand Near Eastern civilizations. people can learn about Near Eastern civilization, but before they do that, they're going to look at the text and they're going to see what the text means. You know where I'm going with this. So, without further ado, let's first look at the Bible and what the Bible says about grape. You know, I have to say grape because of YouTube. And it's a very sensitive topic. The taking of someone's body. We've got grape and we've got slavery. Taking someone's body against their will is a very serious, serious offense. We will talk about context, of course, but we're not going to split hairs or go into, you use semantics to try to veil the fact that it still is, as we know it today, because we've evolved. And as far as civilizations, people have rights now. We're not as barbaric as we used to be. So we know today that is still, if something's in there, we know it's slavery. If something's in there, we know it's grape. All right. So here is the word tafas. I'm going to share that for you right off rip. This is Deuteronomy 22, verse 28. I'm going to try to keep this very simple. As the scripture says, even a child could understand it. Okay. Tafas means to take hold of, to catch, to surprise, to handle, to lay hold of, to seize. If you seize someone, that's against their will, right? Remember that word, seize. That's a big deal. Okay. Lay hold of, seize, to arrest, to catch. Okay. That word tafas is in Deuteronomy 22, verse 28. Let's go ahead and read it. Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 says, suppose a man come, oh, well, this is, let me, because sometimes they get sensitive, y'all. Let me get to the KJV. They like to deal with him. So, because in the NET, it says, suppose a man comes across a virgin who is not engaged and overpowers and RAPES her, grapes her, and they are discovered. They don't like that new translation. So they'll say that we're not playing fair. So let me go ahead and get to the KJV. All right. So where's the KJV? Come on, let's do the KJV. And let's see here. The KJV says, one moment, please. Let me get it. Deuteronomy. Because they like to be confused about it. Not confused, but, hiding it. So here's the KJV. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, that is the tafas, to seize her, to catch her by surprise, and lie with her, that means sex. And they be found, they like to use this part and say, see, they were found, so they were both doing it. No, that means that the matter has been discovered. Okay? And also, I want to point this out, put a pin in this. In bride napping, in wife kidnapping, when men would take the women or do take the women, even today, the woman, to keep her honor, because he's already taken her, people will say, oh, well, she did have sex with him, she didn't. So she'll go ahead and marry him. And the kidnapper, also known as the graper, knows this. So that's also the part of be found. So when they include the woman, as you see, in ancient Near Eastern documents, women were subhuman, they were property, and they were often blamed for things, even if it was something that they had no control over. In this case, you see, it says they be found, but really it's about the matter being found out. And as I said, I can back that up with facts about this situation of the woman and her honor. Even if a man kidnaps a woman, get what I'm saying, in these type of cultures, which are going on in Ethiopia, um, uh, different parts of the world, they're kidnapping the women. And so even if the woman is returned and, they're looking at her like, oh, you did something, or I know he got you. He didn't just take you and not violate you. So her honor is in question. So that's that and they be found thing that these people like to jump on. But let me go back. I just wanted to show you that scripture. And now we're going to go into listening to this so-called critique about Deuteronomy 22. All right. Peace, everybody. All right, let's go ahead and look at this. Like I said, shout out to Paradigm Shift TV. And this is from DMG's channel. So let's listen to this.
Mentally. And that's giving their life over to God, turning to religion and reading the Bible. Right? They tell you that's one of the things that helped them through that. Right? So when people tell you, oh, there's no answer there, then they're turning many people away from the one thing that has been proven to help the mental state, to help the spiritual state, the restoration state of people who, especially women who've gone through this. That's why it's important to have this discussion, this argument, and to show that the Bible emphatically does not condone GRAPE. Does not condone.
Okay, right there. I got to do a fine tooth comb. Exactly, immortal. First off, that's already untrue. We just saw that the Bible does. We'll read the scripture. The Bible does. I wouldn't use. I'm saying mitigate for, and make concession for. The Bible does do that. Deuteronomy 22 says, if a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, meaning she's not claimed by any man, she's free to be taken. He lays hold on her, that means seize, grab, catch by surprise, and he has sex with her. That's GRAPE. And they be found, what happens to him? Then the man that lie with her, the one who did all that, shall give unto her father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall become his wife if the father agrees. Because remember, even you'll hear this person say that women are property. So it is a violation of the father's property, which is his virgin daughter. That's why the 50 shekels are given, which is also similar to the bride price. And the father has the opportunity to say, okay, you can marry her, or say, no, you can't marry her. Because he hath humbled her. The man who lied with her has humbled her, put her into submission under him. He's taken her sexually. He may not put her away all his days. That again is if the father chooses. And 99% of the time, of course, the father says, yeah, because she's damaged goods. In this particular context, I wouldn't say that about a human being, but in this context, she's damaged goods. So he has to marry her, and that's what happens. But she was great. So that was the first misleading statement of many that you will hear in this presentation.
On this behavior, right? So I just wanted to offer this for anyone that needs that help or experience anything like that. You need someone to talk to, and it's okay to talk to somebody. That's one of the things in our community is we don't like to talk to people who have actual experience, right? Some of us like to talk to people who know it's not going to give us an answer or a pushback. But you need to talk to somebody who you're able to sit down with and to be able to share, right? All your feelings and not be judged, right? That's important. So let's continue. For survivors, theologians and historians alike, examining how the Old Testament addresses rape is a task fraught with profound emotion and moral weight. The core of the debate touches on the painful question: looked at through a modern lens, these ancient laws can easily appear to minimize a devastating crime by focusing on property and social hierarchy. Yet, when we look closer at their original context, and this is what Brother DMG opened up with.
Notice he talked about property. Women were property in ancient times, especially in this region where the Torah was used by the people.
This question, we find a different intent. This project argues that the Old Testament did not minimize the horror of sexual violence. Rather, these laws were explicitly crafted to protect victims and punish those who harmed them.
He already contradicted himself. He states that women are property in this presentation. Then he calls the women victims. There's nothing in the Bible saying that they are victims in the law. In ancient writings, and this presenter says that I and other people who know how to read the text and see clearly that it's a form of rape, but it's an ancient time. However, it's a form of rape. He says that we practice presentism. He said, that we practice, I think he said presentism, but it's presentism as far as like it's anachronistic where we're putting a modern time onto an ancient time. You're putting a modern time onto an ancient time by saying they were victims. If we're talking about the ancient text, we're not going to say victims, but we know that people were victims in ancient times. If we look at it in a humane way, we know slaves and women were victims. We're not using that word victims. Nothing in Torah is protecting the woman. You just said it yourself that women are property. Every time you read Torah regarding a law against gRAPE, it's protecting the father or the husband, never protecting the woman. Never. Let's keep reading. And we can prove it because it's about property violation, not about how the woman feels about being violated.
It's what the biblical narrative tells us. It doesn't tell us anything outside of what we just laid out here. Anything else comes from outside of the Bible and someone projecting onto it. And what they're projecting onto it is usually a feminist argument. It's a misogynistic argument, right?
How can it be feminist and misogynistic? How can a feminist argument, which is about empowerment of women and the equal rights of women, how can an argument be feminist and misogynistic, which means to be against women and to demean women? Already contradicting yourself. I want to show something I forgot to show you. Let me stop sharing this. More about the Bible and gRAPE. Here, he says that the Bible is against gRAPE. Here is Judges chapter 21. In Judges chapter 21, the Benjamites, no one was supposed to give their daughters to them, and they were almost killed off. Okay, Judges chapter 21, the Israelite men got together and said, well, we already made a vow not to give our daughters to the Benjamites, and we almost slaughtered them to extinction. What should we do? Let's go to verse 19. Let's go to 18. Howbeit, we may not, the men are talking amongst themselves about the Benjamites. Howbeit, we may not give them wives of our daughters. So we can't give the Benjamite men our daughters. For the children of Israel have sworn, saying, Cursed be he that giveth the wife to Benjamin. So they're like, what are we going to do? We almost slaughtered the Benjamite tribe off. Now we want to try to help them build themselves back up, but we also did a vow not to give our daughters to them. Verse 19. Then they said, behold. So one of them said, I got an idea. There is a feast of the Lord in Shiloh, yearly in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goeth up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebanon. Therefore, they commanded the children of Benjamin, they're telling the men, saying, go and lie in wait in the vineyards. What does lie in wait mean? Let's look at that. I want to know. Do you guys want to know what lie in wait means? It doesn't mean like to stand there and looking good and posing. What does lie in wait mean? Arab or Arab. Let's see what it means.
Strong's H693. Arav.
Arav means to ambush, to lay in wait, to lurk, to lie in wait, ambush, lurk. That sounds like they're hiding. What do you guys think? Yeah? Ambushers. So it says, go hide and lurk in the bushes. Okay, let's get back to reading this. So it says, verse 19, then they said, behold, there's a feast of the Lord at Shiloh in a yearly in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway, goeth up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebanon. Therefore they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, go lurk and wait to ambush in the vineyards. Go lie in wait in the vineyards. Go wait to ambush, to lurk in the bushes. So let's get to verse 21. Verse 21, it said, and see, when they're lurking and waiting to ambush in the vineyard, when they're hiding and lying in wait for the women, and see and behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance in dances, then come ye out of those vineyards, where they're lying in wait, where they're waiting to ambush them, lurking. Come ye out of the vineyard and catch you every man his wife of the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin, and then take them back to your land. So go hide in the bushes, lurk, wait to ambush some women who come out to dance. And when they come out, catch you. Let's see what catch means. Because he said the Bible doesn't condone rape, and that everybody in here is getting unalived if they grape. So let's see what catch means. We already know they were hiding in the bushes, lurking, waiting to ambush. What does chatap mean? I want to see. What do you guys think? I do. I want to know what that means.
Strong's H2414. Chataf.
Chataf means to catch, to seize. There's that word seize again. Just like in Deuteronomy 22:28, it's a different word, but many languages have different words with similar meanings. Those are called synonyms. This one also means to catch and to seize, just like in Deuteronomy 22 with tafas, which means to seize. How interesting. But we're being told that we're too dumb, that we can't see the truth, that the Bible doesn't condone or mitigate for or make concession for a grape. But right here in this story, they're actually making concession for grape. And they're telling the elders to condone it. I'm going to keep reading for you. So this says to catch and seize. This is by force, by the way. But let's keep reading. And see and behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance the dances, then ye come out of the vineyards where you're lying in wait and seize them by force. That's catch. Remember, we just read it? Catch. You, every man his wife, and go to the land of Benjamin. Let's look at verse Let's go back up and look at verse 22, which is going to be very interesting. Okay. So verse 22 says, and it shall be when their fathers, talking about these women who are surprised because the men were lying, lurking in the bushes, jumped out and caught them and seized them and ran away with them to their land of Benjamin. What did the fathers think about that? Well, it says, and it shall be when their fathers, the fathers of those girls, or their brothers, or any of their family members come unto us to complain, like, what happened? Why'd you take our daughters? That we will say unto them, be favorable unto them for our sakes, because we reserved not to each man his wife in the war. For ye did not give unto them at this time, that ye should not be guilty. See, they're saying, come on, just condone it. Make concession for it. Let them have them. Verse 23, and the children of Benjamin did so. So they lurked in the bushes to ambush those women. They lied in wait. They jumped out and seized those women. They caught them. And then they took those women home. And the children of Benjamin took them as wives. That means they had sex with them and kept them forever. According to their number of them that danced, those are the girls who were dancing that the fathers complained about them being ambushed, seized, kidnapped. Whom they caught, and they went and returned unto their inheritance, talking about the Benjamites. And what do you think that means, returned unto the inheritance? They got some babies out of those women. They returned unto their inheritance and repaired the cities and dwelt in them. All right, so I had to read that for you because we're being told that the Bible doesn't condone, mitigate for, or make concession for GRAPE. And by the way, the reason they could do that in that story in Judges is because the law said if they were not betrothed, which we read that they weren't betrothed, if they were not betrothed, then it's not a sin unto death. And in that story, they didn't even give the fathers the 50 shekels because the fathers weren't Israelite men, by the way, because that law pertains to an Israelite father. However, they did kidnap those women against their will, and they took them home and had sex with them and gave them babies. That's called bride napping or wife kidnapping or wife napping, and it's happening today. And it's happening all over the world, but it happened in ancient times because women were seen as property. And you will hear the presenter of this particular presentation, you will hear him say that. Let's keep listening. Hold on. Let me screen share this for y'all.
Experiences that has been proven to help them through these situations, right? So a critical study encompasses a comprehensive and analytical examination across various disciplines. It involves in-depth analysis aimed at unraveling themes, resolving misconceptions, which is what we're doing here, and evaluating contributions in fields like architecture, literature, philosophy, and science. Each discipline employs critical study to enhance understanding and interpretation, highlighting its significance in unraveling complex ideas and evaluating the impact of various texts and philosophies, thereby fostering deeper insight. So the point of doing a critical study or critical analysis on this particular topic is really to resolve the misconceptions. Because the misconceptions don't come from the scripture, they come from outside of the scripture, right? And so we're going to stay within the scripture and its understanding to get the proper context and its proper intent when it comes to this topic. Right.
Well, so far we've stayed in the scriptures. And we saw two instances of rape being okay.
No, it minimizes the severity of the offense. Instead, the Torah introduced, listen to me, people, introduced a groundbreaking legal standard for the ancient Near Eastern world, one that fiercely prohibited GRAPE and actively championed the rights and protection of vulnerable women.
Is that true? We just read a story in Judges about women being kidnapped. It's not true. Let me read something for you about women's rights. The Torah didn't champion in ancient Near Eastern civilizations. Kemet and even Assyrian cultures were much better, if not, I mean, all across the board, women were, subhuman, or I should say, lower class citizens. I'm not saying in Kemet, but in like in Assyrian culture, but that's not true. The Torah didn't come along and is the ultimate protector of women. Hardly. That's not true at all. We just saw where women were allowed to be kidnapped. So stop it. Now, in Kemet, women had a lot more rights. A lot more rights. I'll read this later, but it's about women and all about civil law, the rights of women in marriage and law. I'm going to read this really quickly. This is about ancient Kemet. Okay, this is from the Fathom Library of University of, does this say U Chicago? I don't think there's is there a University of Chicago? Maybe it's University of Illinois. However, I'm just going to read this breakdown about marriage and family law in Kemet. Marriage in ancient Egypt was a totally private affair in which the state took no interest and of which the state kept no record. There is no evidence for any legal or religious ceremony establishing marriage. So, unlike Torah, marriage was between the man and woman. It was very, very personal, and they had very much autonomy over their marriage. Although there was probably some type of party when they got married. The preserved portion of the first late period story of Setne Kam Was tells how Ahure and Nefer Kapata or Kata fell in love and wanted to marry. Their parents agreed, so Ahure was taken to Nefer Kapata's house. People, especially the father of the bride, gave presents. There was a party. The two slept together, and then they lived together and had a child. Basically, marriage was an agreement by two people and their families, not like in Torah, where the man usually decides. Do women get to choose at times? Yes, but it's primarily patriarchal, and it's up to the father and the fiance, not the daughter. Are there instances where the girl has been given a choice? Yes, but typically in Israelite culture, it was between the father and the person who wanted to marry the woman. So there's a lot here, but it says the role of women in many societies, ancient to modern, as that of a commodity sold by the father and bought by the husband. Some Egyptian evidence could suggest that this was or had to be true in Egypt as well. So see, when I told you, even in across the board, women were seen as property, but not so much in Kemet. Women had a lot more rights. I mean, I'm just going to put a pin in this because if someone wants to challenge it, I'd be more than happy to present all the information about in Kemet, how women, they weren't, in
These
ancient
laws were not
times,
just unique for their time.
in ancient times, women were lower class citizens. But for him to say that the Torah was the paramount over, he said, groundbreaking legal standards for the ancient Near Eastern world, that's not true. Not at all. Even in the Code of Hammurabi, if a virgin was raped, the father could have the guy put to unalived. You can't do that in Torah. You couldn't unalive a guy who raped a virgin that's not betrothed. I just showed you the law. That law says that he has to pay the money and marry the girl, period. He doesn't get unalived.
They laid a profound moral and legal foundation that echoes directly in our modern day legislation against sexual violence. That is the truth of what the scripture.
That is not the truth. I showed in Judges how girls could be kidnapped, raped, and made to marry men. That's not the truth.
Actually portrays. It's what it's actually telling us. Right? Anything outside of that or anything contrary to this is simply someone's projection of their ideology to subvert the intent of what the scripture actually says. Right? So again, the Torah introduces a groundbreaking legal standard for the ancient Near Eastern world when it comes to this situation. You're not going to find it in ancient Kemet. You're not going to find it in any Akkadian or Sumerian text.
That's untrue. You will find women being protected as far as when they're married. You will find when women are married or betrothed, their protection against gRAPE in the Code of Hammurabi. In ancient Kemet, if you graped, it didn't matter. You just got unalived. And that's facts. So if you graped somebody, it didn't matter if she was a virgin. It didn't matter who she was. You were unalived for gRAPE. That was the law in Kemet. You were put to death. So you're wrong. You're misleading people.
Not even in the codes of Hammurabi. It's the Torah that specifically lays it out. Even for those of you who want to say, well, you don't have a Torah to 580 or so BCE, still none existed. Still none existed that introduces this groundbreaking legal standard for the ancient Near Eastern, in the ancient Near Eastern world of culture, right? That we see has survived until this very day when it comes to protecting and championing the rights of vulnerable women when it comes to prohibitions against rape and sexual assault. It's here. It's what it says, right? In the text, and we'll go through that, right? So let me break down how these arguments against the scripture are made and the topic that the Bible condones rape. Let me show you how these things are formulated, right? So ultimately, the biblical text neither makes concessions nor mitigates the gravity of rape. Arguments to the contrary are fundamentally anachronistic. And this is what Brother DMG was saying. Like, they're not understanding what the culture was at that particular point in time.
We do understand what the culture was. It was a lower class citizen as a woman, and women were not. They were mostly property. Okay. I'm going to break out of that because I got to read this. We understand, and nothing was different with Torah. I'm going to pause this, take this down, and show you something. I'm going to show you an article. We understand completely, and the Torah is no different. This is an article about the ancient Near East, okay, and women. This is World Press, okay? Armstrong Undergraduate Journal of History. Codifying discrimination, the status of women, slaves, and freedmen in ancient Near East. We understand. That's why we say you're just he's contradicting himself. Ancient Near East, the laws were women were property, basically, when it comes to these type of violations. So, okay, writings from several thousand years ago in ancient Near East have the potential to give us fascinating insight into humanity's baser instincts and values. That means they were very savage, okay? Allowing us to track the progress of, quote, Western civilization from its source. So we can look back on what they used to do and see how far we've come today. Countless law codes stress the idea of proportional retribution, especially in the case of violent crimes. It is evident in these documents, particularly the ancient Babylonian Code of Hammurabi, that this retribution was primarily reserved for freeborn adult men. Let me read that again. Primarily reserved for freeborn adult men, and that penalties for crimes against women, while not negligible, were considerably more lenient. Let me read that again, because he's saying we don't understand. No, we understand. That's why we know that the Bible mitigates for, makes concession for, and condones gRAPE in several different instances. It is evident in these ancient documents, particularly in the ancient Babylonian Code of Hammurabi and the Torah, that this retribution was primarily reserved for freeborn adult men, and that penalties for crimes against women, while not negligible, were considerably more lenient, like 30 silver shekels if she isn't owned by a man, betrothed, or a wife. It is also evident in these documents that slavery in ancient Near Eastern civilizations was not only remarkably common, but that there was a noticeable difference in the way slaves were treated depending solely on their gender. We understand what was going on in the Near East, the ancient Near East. We do. We understand that women were lower class and often seen as subhuman property. That is why the Torah and the Bible shows that rape was made concession for, mitigated for, and condoned often. Okay. All right. In addition, punishment regarding transgressions against a slave typically included reparations to the owner, similar to the women, by the way, because the father or the husband owned the woman. Regarding transgressions against a slave, typically included reparations to the owner of the slave, rather than the slave, him or herself, which emphasizes the relative value of life associated with them. Same with the woman in the Bible. It says, give the father 30 shekels. Father didn't get gRAPEd. Or 50 shekels, 30 shekels. In essence, ancient Near Eastern writings reveal an extremely stratified social hierarchy, which, at its most basic, prioritized freeborn men above women, women above slaves, male slaves above female slaves. So women are always at the bottom rung, except when it comes to a male slave. It is clear in the instruction of Ptahhotep, a type of etiquette guide in ancient Kemet, Egypt, that men in the Egyptian Old Kingdom dominated as head of household and the purveyor of knowledge to younger generations. So this article is great. It goes on and on about women and how right here it says punishments are more severe for crimes committed against a man, particularly if the perpetrator is a woman. So there's a lot. There's a lot going on here. It talks about laws 142 and 143. If a woman wants to leave her husband, it goes on to talk about in the Code of Hammurabi, killing of pregnant women. Now, if a man strikes a freeborn woman so that she loses her unborn child, he pays 10 shekels for her loss. If the woman dies, well, his daughter shall be put to death. That is because that woman who died was property. Now, this law right here protects women, if you want to call this protecting, more than you'd say women are protected in Torah, because there's nuances in Torah. Well, why did the man strike the woman that was pregnant? Did the woman reach in and grab his family jewels during a fight between him and a man? Did he have to chop her hand off? Did that striking, which would be chopping, even if she's pregnant? See, in Torah, if a woman's pregnant, she reaches in and grabs a man's privates while he's fighting another man. That man has a right to strike that woman, pregnant or not. So somebody's sitting here telling us, oh, the Torah protects women more than any other legal document. They all are looking at women as property, but the Torah isn't paramount. So let's stop saying things that are not true, right? So let's get back to this. I remember that's where they did the festivals also. Okay. Deep dives y'all be doing on this. Okay. All right, King Hercules. Gotcha. Even though it's from the ancient world, it's from Kemet and it's from the Near Eastern, Levant, and all that. You want to say that you want to call it what you want to call it. So, all right. That's fine. Do what you like to do. I'm not going to stop you, okay?
And what they're trying to do is take a modern idea or presumption of guilt and wrong and immorality and place it in an ancient Near Eastern context thousands of years before it that did not exist.
What is he trying to assert? That there wasn't GRAPE? Because there's clearly GRAPE. It shows. Even he's saying women were property. I got to move a little. Try to speed this up.
So imposing modern sensibilities onto the ancient Near East and Hebraic cultures from these laws emerged. This opposing affirmative position relies on two critical logical fallacies that these people try to make that do this, right? First, it commits a fallacy of presentism, and that's attempting a conceptual time travel.
Yeah, when he says presentism, that's presentism and saying that the present should be trying to, that's actually what they're doing, what he's doing. He's having a problem accepting the fact that Torah mitigates for and makes concession for, and parts of the Bible shows that rape was condoned. He's having a problem with that because as someone who obviously is vehemently against it, which I know he is, because we heard him say Rain is a great source for people who would like to find out more about sexual harassment and assault. But I digress. So we know he's against it. So he's putting his feelings about how he feels in a modern, humane, advanced, civilized world where women are, we've made a lot of advancements for women, of course. He's putting his feelings about how he feels about GRAPE onto an ancient text. It's interesting throughout this presentation how much this person actually is projecting and saying, you guys have a problem, but it's clear that this presenter and other people who say that the text don't say what it says, they are going by their feelings about how they feel about women today and how women should be treated, and not looking at how the culture was in ancient Near Eastern civilizations. Very interesting.
That judges ancient jurisprudence or law by contemporary standards. That's the argument that they make. It's a logical fallacy. They're trying to squeeze a square peg into a round hole. Second, it suffers from a sunk cost fallacy. Many of you are not familiar with that, but that's a fallacy. As a debater, you should clearly understand and come to know. They argue from a sunk cost fallacy as well. wherein critics of the biblical narrative stubbornly defend an outdated interpretive framework despite overwhelming contextual evidence because it's contrary.
Isn't that exactly what he's doing? This is so remarkable how, shout out to this presenter though, because we need this conversation, even though people think we don't. Those of us who examine the biblical text, ancient writings, and other holy writings, not just Torah. We look at the ancient texts from those regions and all around the world, but the ancient Near East. He's the one who can't just, because of the cognitive dissonance, because he is vehemently against gRAPE. Okay, he's definitely finds it to be disgusting, right? He can't let go of his feelings and his position personally to be able to freely and intelligently and look at the text that comes from that region in ancient times. Women were property. They were property of their fathers, their husbands, and their fiancés. Point blank, period. So he can't let that go. And he's saying that that's what people like myself and others are doing when we just look at the text. It's very simple.
So you can show them the empirical evidence. You can show them the facts. You can show them the linguistics, the morphology. You can show them the culture. You can show them the scriptures that the Bible does not condone gRAPE. And
that's where he messed up. You can show him the book of Judges with the daughters of Shiloh. You can show him Deuteronomy 22 that says tafas, to seize, and to wield the way you want them to go. You can show them tafas, the same thing that says when the Potiphar's wife took a hold of Joseph, with so much force that it ripped his garment. So the same word tafas is for when you take that, seize the woman, and you could show him all this, but he still will say, no, the Bible doesn't condone gRAPE. It's remarkable.
Still argue against it. Why? Because they're placing an emotional gaze in the argument.
Right.
They won't simply say, you know what, I was wrong, or I didn't understand.
He should be saying that. He should be standing in front of a mirror saying this to himself.
They'll argue it until they're blue in the face. Y'all see that a lot around here. That you'll be dead wrong, and they'll just argue you till they just blue in the face. They'll start threatening your family and your kids.
I don't know about all that. I don't know who's threatened his family, but maybe he's saying in general. But let's get past all this. So he's actually talking about himself, because it's clear in the Bible that even in the new versions of the Bible, where people have examined the text more and biblical scholars have gotten together and translated, they say, oh, it says gRAPE in the Bible.
Because you expose them in a lie. So their ignorance is now on Front Street, right? And so now what they'll do is they'll just simply say, oh, no, they don't believe it. They'll just shake their head. Won't offer any other empirical evidence to the contrary. No real rebuttal.
Hey, Elder Yaron,
yes,
I just got to give you a heads up. We got the pseudo-slayer himself, Cedric Ortega, in the building, and he watching and listening, bro.
Do it. So they appeal to your ignorance. They appeal to your ignorance. Or they get with a whataboutism.
Okay.
It is going into the 20th century.
Topic. Over from Ireland or came over from the past societies. And that's the only argument that they have against when it comes to looking at this topic. Does the Bible condone gRAPE? That's the only argument that they have. Failing to respect the vast gulf between ancient and modern worldview paradigms. Critics who argue that the Old Testament mitigates gRAPE are guilty of this error. They strip the biblical text of its original cultural framework and penalize it for not anticipating 21st century legal vernacular.
That's exactly what you're doing. When you refuse to see, I mean, it's right in the Bible. The guys kidnapped the women, and they went along with it. It wasn't against Torah. It wasn't against Deuteronomy 22:28. The Bible is okay with that in certain circumstances. But if it's a woman who is betrothed or married, the man, that's the only time the law says put the person to death. So why are you saying, even today, because in this presentation, our presenter that we're looking at says these laws match the laws of today. Yes, they do. Put a 1 in the chat if you've ever seen a law saying that a grapist is put to death. Do grapists get the death penalty in America? Anybody? Exactly. He does not. That's not a priority for him, Dead Blacks. Thank you, Keto. Mhm. Look at Keto in here trying to be nice to me. I think this is a different Keto, though. Peace, Keto. All right. So, yeah, no, exactly. People aren't put to death today, but they want us to believe 3,000 years ago, where women were seen as property and men were said that if you see a pretty lady, you can take her. But they want us to believe, yeah, they get a lot of time, exactly, but they don't get put to death. But they want us to believe that the Torah was just putting people to death for graping. No, it wasn't. Only if you graped somebody's wife or somebody who is going to be somebody's wife. So he said it himself that these laws match today's laws. Yeah, they do.
That's simple. These arguments that they present are not difficult. We just have to know what they
Okay.
are and how to identify them. Then we can properly address them, right? Another one is the argument for an anachronistic methodology. This also goes with presentism or triumph fallacy. To accurately assess ancient jurisprudence, rejected anachronistic methodology that plays contemporary critiques of the biblical text, judging historical errors by current moral standards fails because it ignores the profound gulf between ancient and modern worldview paradigms. For example,
That's the problem. That's why they're so hurt when we say that the Bible is written that it condones and mitigates for and makes concession for and or all of the above, because you're looking at it from today's standards.
evaluating Athenian slavery through modern abolitionist values is a recognized error of presentism, as ancient Greek slavery operated under an entirely different social and conceptual matrix than modern chattel slavery. And we read the same thing even in the biblical text when they say, well, the Bible condones slavery. No, it does not.
Did you just hear this, y'all? Of course, the Bible condones slavery. Slavery is how to treat your slaves is all through the Bible. You kidding me? This is the thing. They don't want to call it slavery because of their modern values. This is an ancient text about ancient civilizations. They didn't give a dang about human rights. They were trying to survive. It was survival of the fittest. It was like fighting for food, fighting for life. Nobody was really focusing on the human rights of women and slaves, because it was about every man for himself, who's strongest. Oh, men are strongest. It was about war, territory, and those were the ones who were the strongest, had the power and made the rules. And no, the slave didn't have any power. The Bible says, slaughter the families and look at, if you see some pretty ones amongst them, bring her and you can have her.
It's the same problem. Slavery in slavery in the ancient Near East, especially as you read about it in the Old Testament and even in the New Testament, when it says, when Paul makes the statement, slaves obey your masters, it's not referring to the modern, to the conceptual matrix of shadow slavery that we've seen in the
Exactly,
antebellum
Scooby
South.
Doo.
It's not giving us that context or intent. Hold on a second, family. Yeah, give me
The Bible says slaves obey your masters. I mean, there's so many texts about this slavery. I
one
just want to get
second
through
here.
this. Okay, let's see
Scholastic
here.
or academic arguments that these people try to make against the scripture. All right. Makes absolutely no sense, right? Let's do it. Let's do this here. It's like, and this is what they do, right? And I'm gonna address this because I saw somebody just try to disprove my point in making this logical fallacy in the chat, right? Now, we all know that human travel is possible, right? We know this. We know it's possible.
But this is, I can't do this right
Have
here.
no founding or basis for their morality. They hate the Bible, so they just make up.
So because like, why are you getting personal? Because we see the truth and and we don't have to be locked in cognitive dissonance. Now we hate the Bible. I don't hate the Bible. I actually look at the Bible for the truth and appreciate that it's an ancient time. It's the ancient Near East where women were property and they were lower class citizens. So what do you mean? We got to hate the Bible? And then he says something else. Like, of course, I'm the only woman teaching this prevalently. So he's like, oh, it's because women who've gotten essayed, women who've been graped. That's why a woman would say that there's grape in the Bible because she's been graped. Like, what is with all that? You know what I mean? Just stick with the Bible and the text and the critique. Like, why do you have to talk about? So that is so disrespectful to women. So if women criticize or critique the Bible or break the Bible apart and look at what it really says, we have to have been sexually violated. But if a man does it, what? Has he been sexually violated? Of course, that's silliness. That's just personal, and it's just trying to diminish the strength of the argument that many people, women and men, have that there is grape in the Bible. Peace, it truly pees me off to listen to and view a person try to rationalize clear evil in the Bible. Now, infinite energy source, yeah, slavery and grape is evil. And for somebody to sit up and say that it's not in there, I get what you're saying. It can be very frustrating. So I'm not going to invalidate your comment. Yes, it was a type of civilization at the time. Yeah. So let's keep listening. I want to get to some of the parts where he really contradicts himself about these people he uses, these so-called women that agree with him.
Fallacious arguments. All right. What I got going on here, man? Let me see.
Black Sage,
I
let
had
me
a
ask you a
fast one.
question.
Let me go for it.
I studied Islam.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Who argued that the Old Testament mitigates rape commits this precise methodological blunder. They penalize ancient Hebraic law for failing to use modern vernacular, blind to how uniquely protective those laws actually were within their own historical context.
Protective for who? Who did they protect? If a woman got graped, who is being protected? You say that women were property. The father and the husband are being protected, not the person who got graped.
If you don't understand that, then you shouldn't really be having these arguments, right? People will argue till you blue on it. They will argue with you till you blue. You've been having these conversations for weeks.
Let me get to the part where he starts
That's what I'm
quoting
used
these
to
people.
hearing. It's coming, and then you know I'm telling the truth. Somebody always come back, but they're motivated.
Hey,
He's
if I
talking about
may,
himself.
Mush. Go ahead.
Okay.
The woman say no in biblical Israel on the genealogy,
Okay, let's get to this.
but they're motivated by a bruised ego, fear of defeat, and irrational animosity towards the text. They hate the scripture, period. And critics stubbornly double down on their errors. You know you're wrong, but you're just going to double down on it. You're just going to beat us about the brow in the face, and you're wrong. The biblical narrative does not condone rape. I don't care how you try to remix it.
Oh my goodness, yes it does.
All right?
Get through this.
The exact intellectual stubbornness. The woman say no in biblical Israel on the genealogy of legal status in biblical law and literature, right? AJS Review, 2011, pages 1 through 22. And this is a University of Florida research paper. You can find it actually as an article referenced in the Cambridge journals as well. And listen to what he says, right? In his 2011 article, Could a Woman Say No in Biblical Israel on the Genealogy of Legal Status in Biblical Law and Literature, Robert S. Kawashima observes that only men, or fathers particularly, may lawfully dispense with the sexual use of female bodies.
Did you just hear? I gotta look at the chat. Did you guys just hear that? Yeah, warmongering. Did you just hear what he's like reading stuff that helps our argument? Does he not see that? In his 2011 article, Kawashima, his article, Could a Woman Say No in Biblical Israel, on the genealogy of the legal status in biblical law and literature, Robert S. Kawashima observes, listen to this, that only men, fathers particularly, may lawfully dispense with the sexual use of female bodies. Is he not reading this or what? Yes. Women didn't have autonomy. They didn't have any type of authority over their bodies as far as sex. It was the father. Lawfully dispense with sexual use of the female bodies. That was of the father's job, only men. He concludes that the absence of consent means that, quote, there was no such thing as forcible rape in biblical Israel legal system. That's he deduces that. But look at this. If the men only had say so over the woman's body, there's an absence of the idea of rape. Get it? So basically, when he says there's no such thing as forcible rape, right? Because women didn't have autonomy over their bodies. Women had no say so. So if a woman has no say so over her body and a man grapes her, that's not really grape in ancient times. But we know that it is grape. So what are you trying to do? Take us back to that time and tell us that it's not grape? Women had no say-so of their bodies. Kawashima concludes that absence of consent means that, quote, there was no such thing as forcible grape in biblical Israel legal system. He basically is saying any such encounters are crimes of illicit sex, and the victim is either the woman's father or her husband, not the woman herself. I mean, is this presenter not reading this? That's our point. It was irrelevant about what the woman wanted, about what was being done to her body. which was GRAPE. It was about what the father felt and what was going on with the father or the husband. That's what the laws said. Is he not reading his own source? Oh my goodness.
2011, right? Understand what he's saying here, right? Understand he was saying in the context of the ancient Near East, the sexual value or the sexual existence of a woman was something that was owned particularly by a father or the male head of that household. It was something that was of such immense value that they didn't leave it to a woman who could possibly be guiled by a man and lose.
See the chauvinistic woman hate coming out of him. Oh, that's why. That's why it wasn't about her, because she might be a hoe and give it up easily. That's basically what he's saying. No, stop sugarcoating it. It's because she was seen as property. It's because what she wanted didn't matter. It came secondary, actually. I shouldn't say it didn't matter. It came much later, or it came beneath what the father wanted or what the husband wanted. It's not because she might be tricked into having sex because she's too stupid to keep her legs closed, which that did happen to women. It happens to women today. But guess what? That's also today because we've gotten more civil rights and we're more humane. We know that's a form of GRAPE as well. It's called coercion. Called coercion. So he doesn't admit that he's using a source that's killing him. It's killing him. We know that. That's why they said it wasn't any such thing as GRAPE in ancient times, because duh, she's irrelevant. It's about the violation of the father.
Lose her sexual value. So your father or the head of that household, his job was to protect your sexual value.
He protected the sexual value of his daughter because it was in the law. I'm talking about the law, not about a father, how he feels about his daughter. I'm talking about in the law, because he's the owner of her, because she is valuable. Yes, he can use her to, negotiate power moves. If a very wealthy family wants his beautiful young daughter, he can marry her and then be set for life because his daughter's going to take care of him. They're going to have influence. She influences her very powerful husband and his family. So that's his property.
As a female, I know that spills some of y'all brains to mush. Go ahead.
If I may, Elder Yara, as a man with 4 daughters, all of which are grown now, but I wish that I had that authority and that power as it related to them giving themselves to an individual. Because I would put absolutely. So, but continue. That resonated with me heavy. You ever?
Yeah. Hey, listen. I have 4 daughters as well, grown. I have 1 daughter, no children, no husband. But guess what? She's had issues with me. And guess what? I always tell her, I said, whatever you do, let him know that you have a father who's living, moving, and breathing, and will be there lickety on the spit, as they used to say, on the spot.
I'm telling you.
You know what I'm saying? Make that known from day one.
Hey, let that be known. Look, when my oldest daughter first started dating, me and my cousin almost pulled that same from Bad Boys.
Hey, bro, for real. I've had to do it several times, man. Several times. You got to do it, man. You got to do it. So it is my duty as a father to protect, it may sound lewd when we say it today, but back then it was their duty to protect the sexual value of that woman. Why? Because that was the thing that she held that no one could take away from her, that would secure her future. You understand? That was the one thing that she held as a female that would secure her future. Her sex.
Yeah, but her father makes a decision about it.
sexual integrity and purity. And so it was the father's job to make sure that that was protected. Y'all can't tell me, y'all, listen.
He makes it like it was something that, like today, modern, where you as a woman should stay, a virgin until you're married, and then you get a nice husband. And no, it was about her, like it says, stick with the script. It was about her being property of her father, and he makes a decision on how it will benefit him and, of course, his daughter, but his family as well. First and foremost, him.
Y'all wish some of y'all fathers would have knocked you upside the head before y'all got involved with that man that you've been chasing around for child support for 25, 35, 40 years. Two-timing you. And then you still run back to him and you got you pregnant again. Now instead of not paying for one, he ain't paying for two.
Right. But because you had one by him, you feel like
we have to focus on. Listen, I don't have to give an emotional response or reaction, right? I'm just reading to you what the scholars.
Yeah, and the scholar is aligning with our information. It wasn't about a woman having any type of power over her body. You just presented a source that says the father had the say so. So when a woman got raped, she wasn't seen as a victim, the father was. So these laws don't protect women at all, and they protected the family and the father first and foremost, or the husband. So yeah, this isn't emotional. We're just showing that you're pulling scriptures, and you're pulling, I shouldn't say scriptures, you haven't pulled any scriptures really. You're pulling sources that align with our information, that the Bible does not always put people to death for GRAPE, and that it often has shown that it mitigates for and makes concession for situations when men grape women.
Actually say about it. And it's funny when it comes to certain things that we want to pick and choose, not just which scholars we listen to because of their skin color, but when do we listen to the scholars? See, we only want to listen to the scholars when it's, goes along with our how we feel about it, right? When it agrees with us, you see. But on this particular topic, does the Bible condone GRAPE? The consensus of scholars is the answer is no.
Do you see how he twists things though? I mean, I want to get in a personal thing, but like, what is he talking about? This scholar agrees with us. The woman had no power over her body. Let's read this again. What are you talking about? The consensus of scholars. He concludes that let me get to the top. Kawashima observes that only men, fathers particularly, may lawfully dispense with the sexual use of female bodies. So the father decides what's going on with her sexually. Why? Because she's seen as property of him. He concludes that the absence of consent means that there was no such thing as forcible GRAPE in the biblical Israel legal system. So there was an absence of consent. She didn't get to consent. She didn't get to say, "Oh, well, I don't like him," or "He graped me. Unalive him now, Dad." So when there is no consent, when she gets what we know as GRAPE, okay? But they say in ancient times, okay, that wasn't seen as GRAPE, right? Because it was a violation of property. He concludes that the absence of consent, which is GRAPE, means that, quote, there was no such thing as forcible GRAPE in biblical Israel legal system. He's saying that GRAPE wasn't even existent back then. Yeah, they didn't see it as GRAPE, sir. But we know it was. Any such encounters are crimes of illicit sex, and the victim is either the woman's father or her husband. Let's read that again. He's saying any such encounters are crimes of illicit sex, meaning like, okay, that was just like they just did it without marriage. But that was GRAPE. You get it? The victim is the father or her husband, not the woman herself. So if the woman isn't the victim, it's not going to be GRAPE in ancient times. Because like I said, the women are not victims in ancient times. If this sounds confusing, let me clear it up. Women in ancient times, it wasn't called GRAPE at all. There wasn't GRAPE. Even when you see a woman was married and violated, they didn't even call it GRAPE. They were like, he just messed with my wife and took my property, and that was my wife. I'm the only one who can have sex with her. Unalive him. But if she's not having sex and she's not betrothed to have sex, because that's what marriage is for, then she's owned by the father, and the father isn't having sex with his daughter. It's a different type of breaking of the law and violation of property. So you don't get unalived. The father is the victim. His daughter was violated. His property was damaged. I'll say it again. His daughter was violated, which means his property was damaged. Why isn't he being put to death? Because there's nobody that has sex with her. He hasn't come in and had sex with another man's wife. So he's not put to death. But he does have to pay, and he does usually have to marry her. But he still graped her. However, there's no GRAPE in their law system. He concludes that the absence of consent means that there was no such thing as forcible GRAPE in biblical Israel system. So there wasn't even any GRAPE, according to the system, because that wasn't seen as GRAPE. But we know today that that's what that is. So when he's saying that we're doing presentism, no, we're not doing presentism. We know that slavery is slavery. We know that GRAPE is GRAPE. But in that civilization, that it didn't matter. It wasn't seen as GRAPE. It was seen as a damaging of someone's property. Any encounter are crimes of illicit sex. And the victim is either the woman's father or her husband, not the woman herself. I don't know. It's like this. I'm saying it over and over because this source, peace, Caleb. This source is aligning with our argument.
There's nothing, and there's really nothing to be discussed about it. The only arguments against it come from outside, fit within those three fallacies: presentism, anachronistic, and sunk cost fallacy. And it built on misogynistic and feminist arguments. But none of
How can an argument be feministic and misogynistic? It's those two are opposites.
support what the
you
text
contradict
actually
yourself.
says, not according to this consensus of scholars on the topic. So he concludes that the absence of consent means there was no such thing as forcible GRAPE in biblical Israel's legal system. I'm not reading something from 30, 40, 18, 1500. It's 2011 he wrote this. Any such encounters are crimes of illicit sex, and the victim is either the woman's father or her husband, not the woman herself. So the one who, and so let me get y'all to understanding this as y'all are reading through these scriptures, y'all hearing people talk about this. So when they talk about if a woman's sexual purity is violated, that the violator or the perpetrator has to pay the father or the husband or the brother, whoever the head male of the household is, he has to pay him so many shekels. Why? It's not because the fathers are saying, listen, this is how much we selling her sexual value from. No, it was a penalty. It was a penalty because you've legally harmed the father or the male of that household, because the value of the sexual purity of his daughter had to be rectified, because now the sexual purity no longer exists. So the blessing of that daughter's sexual purity not only was to ensure her future, but it also helped the entire family. So it may seem archaic and arcane in today.
Quick, I do want to, no, not arcane. Arcane is not the right word. That means esoteric, but archaic is. But let me point this out too. When I say, okay, he's basically agreeing, Yahweh's agreeing with us. I didn't want to even mention his name, but he's agreeing with us. Y'all know who he is. So this is saying that even though Kawashima, I will say this much, that Kawashima is trying to say, oh, it was just illicit sex. No, it wasn't just illicit sex. The text says that she's grabbed and seized and held and manipulated to go the way the guy wants her to go, and then her sex is taken. That's considered GRAPE. It's force. But the gist of everything is agreeing with us. We agree that, because remember, this presenter that we hear talking, okay, we know it's Yahweh, right? He said that people are unalived. There's nobody being unalived in Deuteronomy 22:28. And as you see, it's saying it harmed the father. The harm is there. It says there's a victim. The father is the victim of the grape. There is another scripture in Exodus, I believe it's Exodus 22, where the woman is coerced, she's seduced. These are two different instances. So it's not just about them running away and getting it on before marriage. No. In fact, in Israelite culture, two people having sex before the father says so is still a legitimate marriage. Okay? If the father is involved in the Israelite woman's life, because I'm kind of going ahead to like the New Testament, where it says where Mary had sex with they were trying to say Joseph thought she had sex with another a man or whatever. So scratch that out. I don't want to be confusing. Let's get back to the actual Torah. In the Torah, if a man has sex with a virgin, he has to marry her. He can do it by seducing, which is in Exodus 22. He will seduce her, so he's not graping her physically, but coercion is considered a form of grape. If he seduces her, he's not physically graping, he's not grabbing her by force. That's in Exodus. He still has to pay the father. In fact, let me get it for you so you'll see it. He still has to pay the father. Let me get it. Exodus, verse, I believe it's 22. It might be 21. Oh, here it is. Found it. Okay. Exodus 22, verse 16. This Bible, this addresses a scenario of seduction. The Hebrew word for seduces or entices is patah, Strong's H6601. This means to persuade, deceive, or allure. The law rules that if an unmarried man talks a virgin into sex, he must pay the bride price and marry her, similar to Deuteronomy 22, you see? Now, in Deuteronomy 22, he doesn't do the talking. He does physical tafas, which is to seize. So, for the most part, when you see Kawashima say any such encounters are crimes of illicit sex, well, he's referring to the ancient mindset. They saw it as an ancient mindset, which would be illicit sex. They didn't even have GRAPE. There wasn't even a word, like a concept of GRAPE. It was, oh, you took it by force. But I want to repeat that. In an ancient context, in ancient Near East, there was no idea of absence of there was no thing about women consenting. Now, when he says absence of consent, he's talking about GRAPE. But there was no thing about a woman consenting. She didn't have the ability to consent because she was owned by the father. Even in Tamar, if you read right here, it says, even in the story of Amnon's entrapment and attack on his sister Tamar, 2 Samuel 13, a brutal sexual assault, she attempts to resist. It is not a case for GRAPE, according to Kawashima. See? Because why? Because she wasn't being graped in ancient mindsets. He was violating the father. You don't believe it? Let's get it. Let's get that scripture. And you'll even hear her saying, go ask my dad for this. She's saying, go ask my dad for this. Don't do this. Ask my dad for it. He'll let you have it. So she had no way to consent. There was no consent possible because women didn't have that ability of consent in ancient times. Did they like having, when I say this, remember we're talking about ancient mindset and the law. Of course, women are like, yes, I want to be with my husband. Yes, I consent to sex. I'm not talking about love and romance. I'm talking about the law. It wasn't up to her. It was up to her father. So let's get that part where she says right here, this is 2 Samuel 13, verse 12. Listen. And let me go up to 1 where he says, come lie with me. Verse 11. And when she had brought them on the cakes unto them to eat, he took hold of her. That's another take hold. It's a different word, but it's a synonym. He also took hold of her and said unto her, come lie with me, sister, like, let's have sex. Verse 12. She answered him, no, my brother, do not force me, because there was such thing as force, but they didn't see it as rape. They're seeing it as, oh, he's going to take the sex away. Do not force me. No such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. By the way, yeah, guys who took it were seen as like losers because they couldn't get women any other way, but it still was a legal way to get a wife. Okay. So all that stuff about, no, they didn't do that in Israel. Of course they did. That's why there's laws against it. And I whither shall laws against doing it to certain women. Basically, there's laws to prohibit it when it comes to taking a virgin. They're like, okay, if you take a virgin, if you take her, you're going to pay the money. That's a lot of money. And you're going to have to marry her forever. So don't go around just taking it from women. That's what she's talking about. Don't do this folly. She said, no such thing ought to be done in Israel. She's like, you shouldn't be just taking women without getting the consent of the father, forcing us. You got to get our father's consent. Look at what it says right here. It says, and I where shall I cause my shame to go? If you grape me, it's going to be humiliating. Even if she has to marry him through the law, she's going to be humiliated. As for thee, thou shalt be as one of those fools in Israel, the guys who can't get a woman and they have to grape, like the Benjamites. Watch this. This is what I wanted to show you. Now, therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, that's her father, for he will not withhold me from thee. That's who has the consent. She's saying, oh my goodness, don't just take it like some bum, like these Benjamite bums who had to take it. Don't be the guy who's so desperate you have to kidnap a wife or just grape her to get married. First, ask my dad, get my dad's consent, do this the right way. But that didn't mean that taking it he would be put to a death. He was put to death ultimately because he didn't marry her. So I just pointed that out. I want to show you that this source that he's giving is not it's not working for him.
This time, but at that time, it was valued, highly valued. And so they say, oh, you just would give her 50 shekels or 30 or 50 shekels and send her on her way. That's not what it was.
Oh, peace misunderstood.
It's not what it was. But you won't get that understanding if you don't properly study. And if you study with the confirmation bias.
Peace to you, misunderstood. I see the hearts. Thank you. You're sweet. I just looked in the chat. Thanks for being here. And yes, thanks for telling people to hit the like button. Yes, hit the like button. Anybody in the chat who's wants to join the panel or, add in, here is the link. Because if you can present something that shows us otherwise that grape is not in the Bible, which we're seeing that I showed the Judges. Judges shows that the women of Shiloh were kidnapped and then they had babies with those guys. That's grape. Now, in ancient times, was that not seen as grape as we see it today? Yes. So we understand that that's a different time. We've made a lot of advancements for women and for humans in general. This is thousands of years ago, but it's still, we know it today as grape. When you take somebody sexually against their will, that's grape. When you grab somebody, seize them, and then lie with them, that's grape.
You're going to get that too. You're going to walk away ignorant of what the intent or the text actually is saying, right? Thus, even the story of Amnon's entrapment and attack on his sister Tamar in 2 Samuel 13, a brutal sexual assault. She attempts to resist. It is not a case for grape, according to Quashini. And the reason why is...
Did you just hear that, y'all? This source is against you, sir. Listen to this. I read it already, but just to hear Yara read it and not even catch that he's using the source is killing him. It says, even the story of Amnon's entrapment and attack on his sister Tamar in 2 Samuel 13, a brutal sexual assault she attempted to resist, Kawashima says, is not a case for rape. Yara, you don't hear this guy? He's against you. Or is he, I don't get it. Like he's agreeing. We get it. In ancient times, that was not seen as grape. It was seen as a violation of the father's property. It is seen as the father being the victim, not the person. You're not seeing what you're presenting. That's why I wanted to pull this up mostly. I'm going to get to these sources. They're ridiculous. Like, number one, these sources these people are just in the same boat as we all are. We all have been studying, and I'm talking about myself and other people like even Yara, people who have been studying this text for years. They don't take precedence over our information, they are very helpful. And yes, I don't discount that these are scholars who have degrees. However, examining the text, which I can do thoroughly and have done thoroughly, no one can get around this. No one. And Kawashima is agreeing with me. In ancient times, it wasn't seen as a type of violation of the woman. It was seen as a violation of the father. That is why the father gets the money after the girl is graped. And that is why the girl has to marry the guy if the father wants her to marry him. If the father says, yes, marry her, she has to marry the guy, even though he graped her. That's why Tamar is like, you're doing the bum move. You're doing the incel, I can't get a woman, let me grab her and lie in wait. The Benjamite move, which is a way to get a wife in ancient Israel and even today, but it's looked down upon like, dang, bro, you couldn't even get a wife like on your own, like honor and you know, your character. You get to steal a wife or you get to force her. So yeah, it was looked at it like that, but it wasn't illegal. Wait, I take that back. It wasn't a breaking of the law unto death. That's what I want to say. Graping wasn't against the law if it was a virgin. And if you could get a hold of her and take her and keep her with you and lie down with her, then you had a pretty good chance to getting married to her, because the father's not going to want to, you know, she's been humbled by that guy. He's like, wow, nobody's going to really want to marry her. Not these high level guys that I've been trying to hold out for. I was trying to marry her to the King David's family, but now this bum came lying in wait in the bushes. And now I got to just go ahead and take the 30 shekels and go ahead, baby, marry him. Dad's sorry. Or he'll take the 30 shekels and say, no, I'm not marrying you to this guy, but somebody maybe will marry you. Well, hopefully. But everybody's going to know that she was graped. That's why Tamar put ashes on her head. She was like, dang, he didn't even marry me? Oh my gosh, I'm so humiliated. And that's why Absalom unalived his brother Amnon. Okay?
Because she did not own her sexual purity. The family, the father was responsible for the sexual purity. I know it doesn't sound right today, but we can only talk about it in the context of its day. To try to push a modern narrative.
Does he not hear himself saying that Tamar wasn't great? I mean, he's agreeing with the fact that the guy's saying, oh, it wasn't seen as grape. I don't think he gets it.
Narrative on it is a presentism fallacy. It's a time travel fallacy. It's an argument you cannot uphold. Right? Biblical law and literature, he concludes, fail to perceive what he refers to as forcible grape.
So, you see, coming back to what we know, yeah, that is forcible. But biblical law and literature fail to perceive that, Yara. So when we say it's forcible grape, the law at that time was like, okay, it's just a violation of father's property and give him it's still grape though. You get it? It's still grape. Okay, so
the text doesn't give it that. And so when you say, well, that's how I would see it today, well, that's your conjecture now. That's your interpolation into the text. That's your opinion of the text. Now, you can argue my opinion of the text, but do not dare come and say, this is what the text says. It doesn't say that at all.
Well, the guy that you're quoting is agreeing with us. He said that even the case of Tamar is not a case for GRAPE, according to Kawashima. He's saying that so that is why Deuteronomy 22, they're not looking at it as a violation of the woman. They're looking at it as the violation of the father's property. 22 verse 28 and 29.
Anything outside of this understanding, you made it up. You made it up. So was that. Right? Next slide. Eve Levabi Feinstein, PhD, because some of y'all say, well, of course, that's what a man would say.
Okay, when he presents this, I've never argued that Dinah was graped. Dinah wasn't graped. I don't even know why he added this saying we often use it. Who uses this? I don't. Dinah was in love with Shechem. Her brothers broke the law. They broke the law. Jacob was like, dang, I have to go ahead and get her married, because Jacob was following, which the law wasn't even established, but I'm giving you the context of the law. But Jacob was like, let me change that. The Torah wasn't established yet. It wasn't established yet, but the the ancient Near Eastern region that they lived in, they had similar laws before Torah about grape and women. However, Dinah wasn't graped, especially not in ancient Near East. None of these people were seen as grape. But Dinah, according to the text, it never says he seduced her. Or maybe it does. We got to look at it.
I got you.
But I'm saying she wasn't physically held down and forcibly raped. That's my point. I never argued that.
Eve Levabi Feinstein, PhD, Harvard University and Stanford. She pens the book Sexual Pollution in the Hebrew Bible. Right? Here's the source for it. Right? There's a citation. Sexual pollution in the Hebrew Bible. New York, Oxford University Press, 2014. See what she says. She talks about the case of Dinah, right? Which is often the go-to for most people when they want to talk about that you can show evidence of grape in the Bible, right? And that it's condoned somehow. They often go to this. But let's see what she says. In sexual pollution in the Hebrew.
We do not often go to this. What are you talking about? Let me read this. Deuteronomy 34. I don't know why he said that. Who's going to this story of Dinah? I'm not. I've never gone to this story of Dinah because I know Dinah didn't get graped. Because here it is. I just wanted to double check before. I hadn't read it for a while, but yeah. Genesis chapter 34, verse 1. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. So she was hanging out with the girls around the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. Okay, so he got with her. And his soul clave unto Dinah. They had sex together. It doesn't say that he raped her ever. And it doesn't even say that he enticed her. His soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he loved Dinah. He loved the damsel. And he spake kindly unto the damsel. They were wrong. They messed up. And he wanted to marry her. He was doing the right thing. So whoever said that Dinah was raped, I don't know anybody who has said that, but whatever. But let's keep listening.
Vavi Feinstein uses the readings of Lynn M. Betchel and Tekva Framer-Kinsky to suggest that based on word order, this is important, based on word order, Dinah may not have actually been graped by Shechem. Right? And this is something we've been arguing before, that is clearly not a sexual assault here. The argument made by Betchel is that in descriptions of grape, violate precedes lie with, while in cases of consensual sex, violate follows lie with. Do y'all see the difference? I'll read it again. The argument made by Betchel is that in descriptions of grape, violate precedes lie with in the text, while in cases of consensual sex, violate follow.
And I don't know where she got this even idea from. Where, but we don't think that she was. I don't say that Dinah was raped, but all this violate follows lie with, and how does who's determining that that's correct? Like, this is her idea. Like, okay, just because it aligned, like you went through the book and found some stuff that you said, oh, I don't think this is great. Oh, look, violate follows lie with. Like, doesn't this is just some wild, for me, it's a wild idea. It has no real scholarly foundation. But nonetheless, I don't say Dinah was raped, but that whole violate in the description of rape, violate precedes lie with, that's not true. I mean, I don't it may be just a coincidence, but the fact that violate comes before lie with isn't the reason why we can see that Dinah didn't get raped. The reason we can see Dinah didn't get raped is because her father said she could marry the guy. And the boys, no, that's not true. Let me read it. Let me get it. Because I don't want to be sloppy on this. So let's look at the actual text of why Dinah did not get raped. You know, let's just look at the actual text. That's the best thing to do. Because I was falling into this weirdness about if this word comes before that word. That's you can't base it off that. So Dinah, the daughter, so we read that Shechem, it doesn't say that doesn't say anywhere where he grabbed her. Let me get the tools and let's break the words down. So let's see here. Shechem, the son of Hamor. Lakah, it says took. Let's see what lakah means. Does it mean to seize? Let's see. Oh, it does mean to seize, actually. Okay, I can see why he's saying people say it's rape. Okay, yeah, I never said it was rape, though. It says to take, get, fetch, lay hold of, seize, receive, acquire, buy, bring, take a wife, marry, snatch, take away. So that's pretty broad, you know. Carry along. All right, so I can see capture. I gotcha. So that's why some people say that it's great, but for what I've seen in the text, it's not. So he must be talking about other people. Obviously, I'm not the only one arguing about this. So the word that says he took her, which could be lie with only, but no, it could be seize as well, to be totally fair. He took her and lay with her, sakab. That means he obviously slept with her. And that's lie with her. And then defiled her, ana. So I get why this person is saying lie with came before defiled. Because, but still, you shouldn't base it off that. You shouldn't base it off that. You can base it off the context of the story, how it reads, because it says his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the damsel. Okay, I could see where people say that this is great. I never really examined it like that because I never thought it was. I could see it. Yeah, I can. I can see that. I just never saw it as great. Huh. So, but I don't argue against that it's consensual though. Because I think also in here where it says Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this damsel to wife." Like, okay. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Huh. Well, you know what? I never looked at it as grape. Interesting. I still have I don't have any problem with them saying it's not grape, but that's interesting. I never examined it that way. So let's go back to what he's saying. Yeah, now I see it. I didn't really ever examine it like that. So I could see where someone would say it's grape, but I don't think it is from what I've read in the scripture.
Lie with. So violate comes before any understanding.
Regardless of whether I and this particular author, Eva Lavavi Feinstein, even if we say it's not grape, the point that you want to look at is they had to get the father, they still had to go to the father to ask the father if he could marry her. Okay? So like when you see in Deuteronomy 22, it's a law that was written much later, written down in the Torah. It says that after the thing goes down, the father has to be appealed to. Can I marry her? I want to marry her. So let's say just for gits and shiggles, okay? Let's say that I think that this was grape, which I don't, but I can see why people would say that. But let's say that I think it is, right? That means that they still have to go, according to Deuteronomy 22, they still have to go to the father and ask the father for the bride. And that is what's happening in Genesis chapter 34. Shechem and his father are going to Jacob and asking for permission. Okay, so let's keep listening.
Understanding of grape in the Bible when it talks about to lie with. But when it talks about to lie with and the word violate comes after it, that's consensual.
That's really weak, though, because first he has to lie with her for it to say violate, because violate meant like defiled. So you would have to he'd have to first have the act of sex for it to say defiled.
So in her book, Reading the Women of the Bible, Frymer Kinski provides a reading that compares the stories of Dinah and Tamar. She argues that ina, to humble, refers more generally to an act of humbling or degrading of a person. In a case when shakha, to lie down with, precedes ina, the humbling of a woman is a casual result of the.
That says no, not casual. The humbling of a woman is a causal. The humbling is a causal result of illicit sex act of any kind, not necessarily rape. Again, this source isn't helping him. Let's walk it down slowly. The argument this isn't even Feinstein that makes this argument. The argument made by Bechtel is that, quote, in descriptions of grape, the word violate precedes lie with, while in cases of consensual sex, the word violate follows lie with. So she's saying if it's grape, the word violate comes before lie with. While in cases of when it's not grape, the word violate comes after lie with. That's how, why? No, that's not a strong argument. Why? Let's see. In her book, Reading the Women of the Bible, Frymer Kinsky provides a reading that compares the stories of Dinah and Tamar. So just because in those two stories, one is preceding the other, that doesn't mean that's not all you can look at to determine if it's grape or not. You have to look at other factors. Reading the Women of the Bible, Frymer Kinsky provides a reading that compares the stories of Dinah and Tamar. She argues that Anna or Ina, to humble, refers more generally to an act of humbling or degrading a person. And in cases when, no, it also means to have sex with somebody. Stop. And we can show that. And I'll go to the scriptures and show you in the blue letter. It refers more generally to an act of humbling or degrading of a person. And in cases when shakav, to lie down, precedes ana, the humbling of a woman is a causal result of illicit sex. First off, the words are all different. Like this is a mishmash, if you ask me. This is just somebody that's just making stuff up respectfully. But like either one, again, I don't think Dinah, according to what I interpret in the text, it doesn't show me that Dinah was graped. But it could, someone could argue that. I just realized that just now by taking a closer look, because it does say seize. However, the word also could mean marry and other things. It's pretty broad what that word took in this case of Dinah. The whole thing about because lie with precedes, oh my gosh, with consensual sex violate follows lie with. No. Because that doesn't matter. You wouldn't say he violated her because he lied down with her. When you're telling the story back, it's a recount of the story. It says he lied down with her. And then later on, it says, oh, they went to Jacob and Jacob found out that his daughter was violated. It's not going to say Jacob found out that he lied down with his daughter. Because in the context, let me go back to the scripture and show you. Because the story is like, oh, he defiled, he took his daughter, he took her virginity. That's what defiled would mean. Like he took her virginity. Let me get it. Okay. Oh, now I'm looking at this. I never really looked at it. Yeah. So I know I'm sharing, going back and forth, but I want to just show you this. Okay, so in this chapter, it's talking about the playback on what happened. It says, Shechem, verse 2, Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, he saw her, he took her. So he could be taking her to go with him somewhere. Let me look at the word taker again, because it's not just seize, but it could be seize, but he's the prince of the country. Okay, so let's see what happened. It's very vague, but I could see where someone's saying it's great, but it's kind of, why won't this come up? Anyway, took her, we already went over that. And he took her and he lay with her and defiled her. Defiled her. So lay with her, sakab, and then defiled her. Anna. They're calling it shakav and ina in that lady's recap. It's not going to say he defiled her and lay with her. It's going to say he lay with her first. And that meant that she was now not a virgin. That's what the defiled is. So I'm kind of like, well, whatever. I don't say that she was raped, but let's get back to that. The real point is that the father was the one that they had to appeal to.
Illicit sex act of any kind, not necessarily GRAPE. Contrasting this, Ina preceding Shakab illustrates of the fact of is illustrated of the fact that Eve Levi Feinstein in Sexual Pollution. This is what she postulates, right? Based on her breakdown, that even when you talk about the differences in the situation that Tamar went through versus what Dinah went through, Dinah was not raped, but the evidence is positive.
Let me tell you something, Babylon Dunn. I'm doing this because this is something that I've taught. You have what I can't recap this information that bothers you that much, brother? Like, what do you mean it always happens? I teach this information. And if someone, even you admit, is wrong, why would I leave false information out here? I'm a teacher. Why? Especially if it's something that I've been teaching, and especially if somebody is saying, referring to me without saying my name, women who have been raped, that's why they teach that grape is right in the Bible. Like, just chill, please. Listen, if you don't have anything else to do, you're starting to sound like him. I don't know how I'm sounding like him when I'm speaking against what he says. Do you want my attention? I gave it to you. I hope you're having a good night, okay? Ugh.
For an argument for Tamar. And a good brother DMG talks about Absalom, the brother of Tamar, who says, you know what? You're not going to treat my sister like this and get away with it because the penalty for it is death.
He just lied. The penalty for raping a woman who is not betrothed is not death. In Deuteronomy 22, you have to go to the father. That is why Tamar said, let's go to my father, and I'm sure he'll let you marry me. Not death. Absalom took it upon himself to unalive his brother for what he did to their sister. The only reason that you could say that Absalom was in the right is because Amnon did not marry Tamar after he violated her. If he would have married Tamar, like Shechem wanted to marry Dinah, what is the brother's name again? Oh gosh, I forgot. Levi and Simeon were wrong. That's why Jacob said, you made me a target over here now. You were wrong to do that. Jacob was gonna let his daughter marry Shechem because it was lawful. He didn't say, I'm gonna put Shechem to death. He said, okay, I might as well marry her to this guy. He is the prince of the land. I don't like how it went down. I don't like how she didn't, come to me and ask if she could marry him and then lose her virginity. But hey, it's not illegal for him to have my daughter, whether he raped her physically or not. So they were wrong. Absalom, the only reason you can look in the story and say Absalom was not wrong is because Amnon did not marry Tamar. The penalty for rape is not always death, though. We've shown that with Judges, Deuteronomy 22. And with that, even with Amnon, the king didn't put him to death. And all this stuff that you and DMG are saying with your eisegesis and postulating, no, he would have put him to death if he was, if he maybe he was trying, since we're doing eisegesis, How do we know that King David wasn't going to try to make him marry Tamar? The king didn't put him to death because he didn't, he did break the law by saying, I don't want to marry you, but there was a chance that he could have married her. So that's the only reason we would say Absalom is wrong. However, if I just look at the story and not throw my feelings in like I just did, like you guys always do, him being put to death was because he didn't marry her. And that still wasn't lawful for Absalom to make that choice. That was the father's choice, not Absalom.
Tamar also said, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, you notice he said, you defiled my sister.
You defiled my sister. Exactly.
And he went to his...
Defiled my sister means that he took her virginity. Like, that's what it means. He took her virginity.
Father to rectify, David ain't want to do nothing.
That's right.
He waited 2 years, let him get comfortable,
Yes. You see how GMG knows the scripture? He waited 2 years, meaning even from what GMG just said, possibly in those 2 years, David could have been like, okay, are you marrying Tamar or what's up? Exactly. He didn't put him to death. It didn't matter if he was his son. David had to go by the law of Torah. So, yes, 2 years. Yes, DMG, he waited. He was waiting for him to marry Tamar. And Absalom was impatient. So, to be honest, I said the only thing that you could say that Absalom did that out of justice, but no, because Absalom was not supposed to be taking the authority to put that man to death. That was the father's choice. So really, David could have waited 5 years to get his son Amnon to marry Tamar. That was the father's decision, not Absalom's decision. Absalom is similar to Simeon and Levi. They went over the head of the father. Simeon and Levi went over the head of Jacob, and they just killed everybody in Shechem's village in his life. Absalom went over David's head and said, I'm just going to kill Amnon. I waited long enough. No, that was wrong. That was against Torah.
Think everything all right.
Yep.
And he took care of business.
And the reason, and see, people don't understand.
That is so unruly. He took care of business. He broke Torah. He took care of business. He broke Torah. Just like Simeon and Levi broke Torah. Do I care? No, I don't care, because if it was up to me personally, every grapist should be unalived. Every single one. But if we're talking about the biblical text, now who's in their feelings? Check. Now who's in their feelings? He took care of business. He wasn't supposed to do that according to the law. The law says he was supposed to let the father handle it.
The reason why David is not that David didn't want to do anything. David was in a political situation that had he went after Amnon, who came after Tamar, it would have set off.
Thank you. Good point. Good point, Kwaja. I'm trying to say your name correctly. Kwaja Rakib El Shams Ata. I can't say it. I gotta look at it again. I like trying to say it though. I always try to say it. Let me say Kwaja Rakib El Shams Ata Arif Madi. I like that name. Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with Babylon Done? Let me go ahead and finish playing this.
Off a war that David felt like he could not have won at that time.
And we got to remember, it was his son.
It was his son. Absolutely. It was his son.
And because he was Tamar and Absalom half brother, she even says,
yep,
we don't do this in Israel.
We don't do this in Israel.
Father, can you marry me?
Yep.
Yeah, she's saying this shouldn't be done in Israel because she's being brutally attacked, and she's talking about it's not cool. But obviously people do it in Israel because it was done. So y'all don't be like, we don't do. Yeah, the losers did it. Like the Benjamites, remember? Remember the Benjamites did it? So she's trying to say, when she's in that situation, since somebody wants to talk about, you know, women and some men who have been assaulted, if you've ever talked to people who have been in that situation or counseled them, or sadly you've maybe been in that situation yourself, you're going to say anything. That happens also when people are fighting for their lives. When people are actually fighting for their lives, I've seen so many very heartbreaking stories about people begging, offering, negotiating, trying to talk their way out of, because they're being violated on the highest personal level. So she's saying all kinds of stuff to him, like, oh, come on, you're going to look like a fool. We don't do this. You're cool. Come on, you're Prince. Ask my dad. We don't do this. She's saying everything to stop him from graping her. So I don't feel bad in the story about Amnon being unalived. He deserved that. But according to Torah and ancient Near Eastern civilizations, he wasn't supposed to be unalived by his brother. His dad was supposed to handle the situation. Yeah.
She said it. Right? And so the war he was afraid setting off a war with his mother's side, because his mother,
there is nothing in the Bible, absolutely zero, zilch, nada, nothing, non-existent in scripture that says what he's saying. Now, if he's deducing something, fine, but that's a far stretch. I mean, if we're gonna, that's his eisegesis, and I accept that as his eisegesis, but I just want to point out to everyone, there is zero in the scripture that says that David was worried about setting off a war with Amnon's mother's family. There's nothing in the Bible saying that. But hey, it's okay if he wants to, you know, if that's how he wants to put it together. Just pointing out that there's nothing in the Bible that says that.
Amnon's mother was a princess, right? Her father was a king.
It was one of those, what they call them, Elder Yara, when you marry your daughter to either to your enemy as a means of peace treaty, or to your potential enemy.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. People don't understand too. This is why Solomon had so many wives. We're talking about these were peace treaties. Right? People don't understand that. They say Solomon was a womanizer. No, these are peace treaties. He was marrying these people so they wouldn't have to go to war. He wouldn't have to go to war with them. That's why the Bible says he had peace for so many years. Because you know, you bring somebody from your nation, or daughter or son, and you marry them together, and we don't go to war. Because now what? What we got in common? Grandchildren, legacy, now wealth. So this is why Stephen Solomon has so many wives. But this is to understand that people, because they don't read and study the text, they just take on misogynistic and feminist arguments and they run wild with them.
Why does he keep on saying people take on misogynistic and feminist arguments? Which one is it? So how is it a feminist argument if someone's examining text and it says, go wait in the bushes and grab all these women and go take them home and have babies with them? How is that feminism? How is it misogynistic if you're looking at a book that is patriarchal and you agree that women were second-class citizens and property? How is that misogyny toward the Bible? I mean, I don't get it. Are you saying the Bible is misogynistic? You're saying a misogynistic argument. Are you saying, if you're saying the Bible, I could see you arguing that the text is misogynistic, right? But you're not saying that. You're saying the people like myself and others who are showing this, how are they misogynistic? Wouldn't you just mean feminist and then leave it at that? Like feministic? Like you're saying misogynistic. Where is the misogyny with the people who are saying that there's grape in the Bible? Oh, maybe you're saying, I got you. Maybe you're saying, because I had to keep on running that through my mind. Maybe you're saying guys that like the Bible, like GMS, are saying that it's good. Oh, okay, I gotcha. I think that's what you mean, because I couldn't understand why you kept saying feministic or feminist argument and misogynistic. I'm going to assume that maybe I put it together that you're saying people that say, oh, the Bible's good and rape is in the Bible and it's good. I gotcha. But either way, you're wrong. It's not a feminist argument or a misogynist argument. We're just looking at the text. And the text is showing us that women were property and women could be taken, and property was often taken, and property was often damaged or violated. So that was grape. And your source with Kawashima, he agrees that it was not even seen as grape back then. It was just seen as the violation of the father or the husband's property.
With having no concept of what the scripture is actually dealing with or talking about. Right? And these are PhD scholars. And these are women. And I really wanted to show more so what the women's perspective of it was, those who actually study the actual.
The women who actually study, what are you talking about? We're studying right now. He always has to act like, he always has to say little personal ad homs, but that doesn't bother me. Let's get up. So basically, we don't disagree. We're okay with Dinah not being graped. So him presenting this is just like, okay, for somebody else, I guess some people are saying Dinah was graped. Nonetheless, you still haven't proven, even with this information that you presented about Dinah, the father owns the woman. The woman it's not about the woman. It's not about the woman, because I don't say it was grape. So she was happy to be with her newfound beau, Shechem, but her brothers decided to unalive him because she had no say so. The brothers didn't face any repercussions. They got a little scolding, but the father didn't do anything to them for killing her husband, basically. They killed her husband and his entire family. They killed Dinah's husband. Essentially, Absalom killed Tamar's should-be husband, Amnon. So what? It was because they were violated. It had nothing to do with her.
Text. What the academics actually say in the consensus of these issues of grape in the Bible. That's why I'm dealing more with what the women are saying, because you can't make an argument if you like in ignorance and say, well, that's what men will say, but this is what the women are saying. That's what the women are saying.
Yeah, this is what the women are saying. So let's see what the next woman says, and then I'll end this.
All right. It says the rape of Dinah in Genesis 34 tells the story of a local Hittite prince raping Dinah, the only daughter of Jacob. The rape of Tamar, 2 Samuel 13, tells the story of Amnon, one of King David's sons. We just talked about raping King David's daughter, Tamar. Both stories are traditionally interpreted as stories of rape, but the violence of raping a woman starts before the physical act of penetration. Thus, according to Schreimer, Kinsky, the female, end up preceding Shaka, as it does in the story of Tamar, but does not in the story of Dinah, would insinuate an instance of rape or rape. Following this line of logic, certain translators and biblical commentators would argue that the rape of
But his scholar that he referred to previously said that Tamar wasn't raped. So
Dinah is a misnomer for a story that could perhaps better be described as a tragedy of star-crossed lovers. Schreimer Kinsky, who's a female PhD, is also, let me go back to I don't know if she's a PhD, but Schreimer Kinsky is also careful to emphasize that Ina usually has nothing to do with sex.
that is untrue.
So a lot of this stuff y'all hear when it comes to this topic is things people are just saying because they want to say it. Has no basis.
Elder Yara, think about this. This is how you know a lot of people don't actually read the Bible. With Dinah in particular, her and homeboy liked each other.
Yep, facts.
Her brothers, because he didn't go about it the way you supposed to go about it, her brothers dealt with it in a particular way. Her father was cool with it.
Facts. Yep. Facts. Facts. And that's what it is. So then they look at that word. So because it says like he humbled her, they automatically in a modern today's society, people attempt to lie and create a scenario as if there was some unwanted sexual advances that occurred there, or he humbled her, because really what they don't like is the word humble.
It's crazy how they're like saying people lie. The word humble can be related to sex. So that word ina or ana is often in the context of a sexual, not often. Yeah, I'm going to say often in the context of a sexual encounter. It doesn't itself mean sexual encounter. It means to be, how do you say, humbled, to be. Ana can mean, let me see, I'm going to get it right now. It can mean chasten self, defile. Let me see. Let me go up here. Humble, bow down, afflict, depress, stoop. So it means to be humbled. But it's used in the sentence, in the context and a sentence where I'm going to go up to it, where he lies with her. So Shakab, when it says lie with in that particular, verse, to lie with, it says sexual relations, lie down, lodge, rest, relax, die, to be lain with sexually. So when you see Ana and Shaka, you know that it meant that a sexual act took place. So anyway.
Because it hangs too close to submission for them.
This doesn't, I can't listen to this ridiculous thing that they say right here. It's ridiculous. Okay, this is the final thing I want to show you. All his sources did not help him at all. The first one went against him. This one was just like irrelevant because it's not. No one's really arguing that Dinah was graped
every night, because that may be because she a high power boss lady doing her thing. There are only a few circumstances where she can be humble.
Facts.
And I'm trying to do it nightly.
Facts.
Okay, I'm not going to comment on that. All right, so now he's going to introduce this lady named Batya Tamar Yael. It's Tamar Yael Batya. Sacred Vaginas, How the Torah Condemns GRAPE. This is her book in 2019. Why am I showing you this? Just with a cherry on top about his presentation. Tamar Yael Batya, author, independent Torah scholar, authority of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Pentateuch and Torah. This woman, he keeps on talking about the argument of feminists. This woman is a feminist. She is a self-proclaimed feminist. She's teaching the Bible from a feminist perspective. She's actually a biblical feminist. You don't believe me? Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can grab information on this woman. All right. And then we'll be done. I just want to read one more thing, though, about the Middle East and how wife napping is happening right now. Her name is Tamar Yael Bat Ya. Okay. Bat Ya. Okay. Okay. But he's saying that he's pulling women who agree with him. So he's misusing the scholars, not misusing their information. All right. So let's go ahead and share this, what I just asked. Good old Chat GPT. Let's see this here. He's using a feminist for his presentation, but he's condemning feminism. Isn't that crazy? All right. So Tamar Yael Batya, is she a biblical feminist? Yes. Tamar Yael Batya is a biblical feminist, author, and independent researcher. She focuses on examining ancient Hebraic law. Okay. Her work, Yara, such as her book, The Torah Made Her Equal, analyzes the Hebrew Bible to explore legal rights, sexuality, marriage roles, and divorce proceedings in ancient Torah cultures. She writes primarily for biblical feminists. You know, the people that you said are against you, Yara? Well, you said it's feminist. You said it's a feminist argument. You're pulling women who have feminist arguments, biblical feminists. She writes primarily, so she must be writing for me, right? Since you say I'm a feminist and that my argument is feminist, she writes primarily for biblical feminists who aim to merge their faith with empowered womanhood. Now, according to Yara, this woman must have been sexually assaulted. And that's why she's a biblical feminist, because that's what he says. He says women who have been essayed, that's why if they still love God, I'm paraphrasing, this is why they say, you know, things about the Bible that they say, because they're just feminist. She's she writes for biblical feminists. She is a feminist herself. She aims to merge her faith with empowered womanhood. She often argues, weren't they just talking about how women don't want to be humble? She doesn't believe in being humble, Yara. She believes in equality. You sure this is your source that you want to use? She often argues that the text, when examined closely in its original Hebrew context, offers significant legal protections and equality for women rather than perpetuating the subjugation often attributed to ancient societies. Now, this sweet, kind lady, bless her heart, Yara saying that I and other people are delusional. It's clear that the Bible is patriarchal and there was never equality. Women were literally property. But let's go ahead and look at what Yara is going to say that he found from this woman who is a feminist who loves the Bible. So it seems like she's the one that's trying to, you know, make stuff up because she doesn't want to show that, hey, women were mistreated very badly. Let's look at it and then we'll be done.
What?
I do like that title, Sacred Vaginas. I like that. But the Torah does not always condemn rape. It condemns rape of wives of men and fiancés of men. It doesn't condemn rape of virgins. It says if it mitigates for it, it makes concession for it, but it doesn't condemn it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Tamar.
1,000. 1,000, brother. 1,000. 1,000. And that's the sad part, that a lot of brothers don't really understand. They don't really get it.
Yara's talking about humility and how women don't want to humble down. He's saying that's sad. And then he's going to start reading sacred vaginas.
Here's another independent scholar, Torah scholar, authority on the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Pentateuch, and the Torah. Her name is Tamar Yael Yah, right? And she pens a work entitled Sacred Vaginas, How the Torah Condemns GRAPE. And this was in 2019. Let me read to you a section from her book. All right, I downloaded it, and so I just cut this section right here. It says, there are many scholars, theologians, and laypersons that present the belief that the Bible is a patriarchal book. This is what she says here. This is powerful. Is a patriarchal book.
So he thinks that this is powerful because she's about to dispute this, that the Bible is a patriarchal book. He thinks it's powerful that she's about to try to tell us that the Bible is not patriarchal and it's not a story of male dominion over women. Really? You will be in submission to your husband all the days of your life, Eve. We pray to the Father in heaven. We don't pray to the Mother in heaven. Women are property. Yara, you were just agreeing with Kawashima. You're all over the place. The presenter, Yara, showed us that Kawashima says that women were property of the fathers and husbands. So now we're going to listen to this biblical feminist, which I'm not knocking her, but she has an agenda, obviously. She's trying to show us that women are equal in the Bible to men. That's not what you teach, Yara. Let's see. Let me go back and let's listen to him try to I don't know where he's going with this.
A work entitled Sacred Vaginas, How the Torah Condemns GRAPE. And this was in 2019. Let me read to you a section from her book. All right, I downloaded it, and so I just cut this section right here. It says, there are many scholars, theologians, and laypersons that present the belief that the Bible is a patriarchal book. This is what she says here. This is powerful. It is a patriarchal book that tells the story of male dominion over women. In keeping with that historical reconstruction, did y'all get that? She said that's a historical reconstruction.
So Yara is trying to tell us that he agrees with her that the Bible is not a patriarchal book or story of male dominion. What?
The Bible is not a patriarchal book.
Y'all heard Yara. He said the Bible is not a patriarchal book. But he also said that women were property of fathers. You can't make it's classic Yara. You can't make this up. He just super contradicted himself. What? And you said that feminists are the only ones speaking against. At this point, I can't right now. He's using a biblical feminist book to try to prove his point, and just against everything that he teaches, he's trying to say now that the Bible isn't a patriarchal book. Oh my goodness.
She said, but in keeping with that historical reconstruction, they interpret passages in laypersons that present the belief that the Bible is a patriarchal book. This is what she says here. This is powerful. It is a patriarchal book that tells the story of male dominion over women. In keeping with that historical reconstruction, did y'all get that? She said that's a historical reconstruction. The Bible is not a patriarchal book.
What?
She said, but in keeping with that historical reconstruction, they interpret passages in the Torah to make the Torah to appear to condone and support the GRAPE of women. More specifically, They focus on passages in Deuteronomy as a support for their view that the Creator approves of virginal rape by creating a marriage union out of it. You gotta, you gotta marry a rapist. It forces you to marry a rapist.
But it does say you have to marry your rapist if your father says so. After, obviously, you're confused. Now you're really, you said that I'm a feminist for teaching the truth of the Bible. No, I'm not. And there's nothing wrong with feminist, okay? But I'm not a feminist. I'm just showing the facts. So now you're using a biblical feminist who's completely being deceptive, saying that there is no such thing as a marriage union that comes out of virginal rape, even though we saw it in the scriptures. Let's not even, since you want to fight on Deuteronomy 22, Judges, the daughters of Shiloh they hide in the bushes and wait for them. And the guys grab them and go and have sex with them and make families. And it says that the fathers complain, just tell them, oh, come on. Let them have these wives. That's GRAPE to us, but to what's his name? Kawashima, the source that you use that went against you as well. He said, yeah, but in the ancient times, there was no such thing as rape, really. So even Tamar didn't get raped. So now you're agreeing with this biblical feminist that the Bible isn't a patriarchal book, even though women were property of their fathers, even though a father could break a vow that a daughter makes.
It doesn't say that. It says these interpretations are misogynistic attempts at reinforcing their view of male dominance over women. Does y'all understand what she's saying here?
Is that where he got misogynistic from this biblical feminist? So I don't see it. I'm going to just go out on a limb as someone who understands the culture. I wouldn't see it looking at the culture, not from my personal feelings. It wasn't misogyny then because that was the way life was. We've advanced, thank goodness, in civilization, and women are not second-class citizens anymore. We're not subhuman property. But at that time, it wasn't misogynistic. It was a way to function. In fact, the law, Deuteronomy 22, 28 to 29, was put out there to say, hey, listen, don't be graping anybody thinking you're just going to have some fun with them. You're going to marry them and you're going to pay dearly. So if you want to take a wife, you better be able to follow this law. Otherwise, don't have. It was to discourage people from just grabbing people up, but it didn't discourage everybody because it was happening, and it happens today. Let's keep listening to this, and I'm going to show you what's happening in the world that we live in today, which stems from these laws and this culture from thousands of years ago. It's still lingering in many different rural areas of the world that practiced this kind of culture of wife kidnapping.
She said that's a feminist trope that the Bible condones rape.
He just lied through his teeth. She never said it was a feminist trope. She's a feminist, Yara. You didn't do your research. Tamar al-Batya is a biblical feminist. So you just tried to make people think that feminism is something negative to her. She didn't say it's a feminist trope, Yara. She says it's misogynistic. That's why I was like, how are you saying misogynistic and feminist? She doesn't say it's a feminist trope, Yara. You added that. She is a feminist. This woman that you used as a reference to try to go against feminism is a biblical feminist. Okay, so let's let him finish up and then I'm gonna, what in the world was that? Let me get this down here.
And y'all falling for it. These people are not academic scholars and and students of the scripture.
I'm absolutely an academic student of the scripture. You're not, because you pulled a source who is a biblical feminist and you just committed seppuku. You kamikazed yourself just to try to go, I don't know, go along with her? Are you, I don't know. You now you're saying the Bible isn't patriarchal. You agree with her? Okay. I'm done with this right now. I'm halfway through this and I just got to show you guys something. So we showed that he doesn't even vet his sources correctly. And he's trying to call somebody, say people aren't academics. So let's look at some information about what's going on in the Middle East, or I should say in parts of the world, not just the Middle East, but let's start here and let's look what's going on Historic Day for Women in Lebanon. Why am I showing you this? Because just recently in Lebanon, 2017, Parliament repealed a rape law. There are women still fighting organizations to overturn laws that protect rapists. Torah is no different. Torah comes from that same region with those ancient cultures that are now still affecting us today. Let me read this article. Historic Day for Women in Lebanon as Parliament repeals rape law. This was in 2017. On the heels of Jordan and Tunisia scrapping discriminatory rape laws, the Lebanese parliament agreed on 16th of August to abolish all over Africa, all over the Middle East, all over Asia, parts of Mexico. This is still going on. So it's not just exclusive to the Near East, but I digress. Parliament agreed on 16th of August to abolish Penal Code Article 522, the infamous rape law or rape marriage law, Yara. This is how you find a source that supports your argument. This law exempted a rapist from punishment if he married his victim. Yara. This is nothing new. This is a part of the culture of the ancient Near East. It wasn't exclusive to Israel. You see, it's real. Following the repeal of the clause, Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri tweeted, "All these steps are part of a journey that we will pursue along with Lebanese women until she gains all her rights." The Lebanese woman, what does that mean? That thousands of years ago, this law was holding on strong because men were saying, oh, this is how it should be. This is how it should be for men, fathers, and husbands. And women shouldn't have anything to say about it. Just like the Torah says in Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 through 29. It exempted the rapist from punishment if he married his victim. Following the repeal of the clause, Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri tweeted, "All these steps are part of a journey that we will pursue along with the Lebanese woman until she gains all her rights." Lebanese Minister for Women's Affairs, John Agha Sabayin, Agha Sabian. Jean Agha Sabian, had to sound that one out, right? Jean Agha Sabian had previously declared that this law belonged to the Stone Age. It was an ancient law. Yara, everyone who's trying to tell us that Deuteronomy 22 is not talking about grape, of course it is. It's talking about marrying your rapist. The major legal step is a direct outcome of several national initiatives, including a successful nationwide advocacy campaign led by ABAD, A-B-A-A-D Institution for Gender Equality, in partnership with UN Women Lebanon, to remove existing discriminatory legal provisions related to Article 522 of the Lebanese Penal Code. That was a part of their law, just like it's a part of the Torah law. The campaign, funded by the government of Japan and the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA, during the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, mobilized public awareness to strengthen legislations to protect women and girls from sexual violence and exploitation in Lebanon, and to spur social norms change to adequately respond to sexual violation. So this isn't the only country. I just want to pull this one out here. Yeah, so it was in the law that you had to marry your rapist. And it's not just Lebanon. It's really not just Lebanon. Bride napping. Why don't we read this article here? Let's read bride napping. I don't think you guys saw me what I was reading, but you heard it, right? I thought I showed you. Okay, so bride napping. Let's read bride napping. Independent. This is the article of Independent. This is a pretty old article from 2011, but this is still going on. Bride napping, a growing hidden crime. In at least 17 countries around the world, girls are being abducted, raped, and forced into marriage, just like in the Bible in Judges chapter 21. Emily Dugan investigates. Okay. Last year, Asana, a 14-year-old girl from Somalia, see, it's all over. All these ancient, old world countries, ancient laws, ancient practices. They know that it's going on. So when people try to tell you that you're lying or that you're wrong, don't listen to them. What happened just now? It clicked over to Google. That's strange, isn't it? All right. Don't know what that was. All right. So, geez. All right. Let me read some of this article and then we can go to sleep, right? Last year, Asana, a 14-year-old girl from Somalia, popped out to get some meat and milk for her mother. As she walked in Mogadishu market, a car with blacked out windows pulled up. A door was flung open and she was dragged inside. Looks like they were lying in wait. Like in Judges with the Benjamites. A man she had never seen before said to the driver, "This is my wife. We just got engaged." The man was Mohammed Dahir, a leader of the terrorist group Al-Shabaab. Her money was taken, she was locked away and forced to become Dahir's wife. Asana's story is echoed across the globe in a phenomenon that is still little reported or understood. Bride kidnapping or bride napping happens in at least 17 countries around the world, from China to Mexico to Russia to Southern Africa. In each of these lands, there are communities where it is routine for young women and girls to be plucked from their families, raped, and forced into marriage. Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 through 29. Few continents are not blighted by the practice, yet there is little awareness of these crimes and few police investigations. The lack of reporting means there are no global statistics, but inquiries over many weeks by the Independent on Sunday have found anecdotal evidence that bride napping is increasing, something that belongs more to the Middle Ages. I think they mean way, way earlier than the Middle Ages. because obviously whoever wrote this doesn't know about Deuteronomy 22 or the story of in Judges. Something that belongs more to the Middle Ages is growing in the 21st century. The lack of awareness and therefore of any worldwide campaign on the issue leaves little hope for women such as Asana. Her name has been changed to protect her from al-Shabaab, who still sends her. One second. All right. The lack of awareness and therefore of any worldwide campaign. Can you have me one of those waters, please? The lack of awareness and therefore of any worldwide campaign on the issue leaves little hope for women such as Asana. Thank you. Her name's been changed. All right. So anyway, basically, you see what I'm talking about. I know I couldn't. It's fine. All right. So, all right. She talks about what happened to her. It's horrible. You can always go read the article yourself. I want to read this about the ethnic Kyrgyzstan women. Like, there's a real issue in Kyrgyzstan. Up to a third of all ethnic Kyrgyz women in Kyrgyzstan are kidnapped brides, and some studies suggest that in certain regions, the rates of bride napping account for up to 80% of the marriages. Why would somebody try to tell us that we don't know what we're talking about when we know these are ancient practices in these cultures, in these regions, but somebody's trying to tell us that we are wrong and that we don't know what we're seeing and that we are feminists and misogynists and haters of the Bible. No, it's an actual culture. It was happening in the ancient Near East, and it happened around the world, and it's still happening. Okay? In 6 villages scrutinized for a recent survey, almost half of the 1,322 marriages registered were from bride kidnapping, and up to 2/3 were non-consensual. For us, we know non-consensual means rape. But Yara source, Konishiwa, what was his name again? I got to get the guy's name, the Japanese scholar. He said it's not considered gRAPE in ancient Near East. He's right. Not by the way we see it. They don't consider it as a violation in these countries that we're looking at, where 80% of the marriages are from bride kidnapping. They don't see it as a violation. It's just a culture, even though it's non-consensual. Earlier this year, 2 20-year-old students committed unaliving of self after falling victim to bride napping because they know better now. Women don't imagine how many women in ancient times unalived themselves. The deaths of Venera, Kasim Malieva, and Nurzat Kalizkova prompted demonstrations in their home province of Issyk-Kul, but little has changed. Despite bride napping being a criminal offense, carrying a maximum 3 years in jail, wow, very few cases are brought, and most of those who are prosecuted get away with negligible fine. Once bride kidnapping was characteristic mostly in rural areas, but it has become widespread everywhere, including the capital of Bishkek, says Gazbuba Baba Yarova, founder of Kiz Korgan Institute and the organization that campaigns to eliminate bride napping in Kyrgyzstan. So this is nothing new, and it's still happening. I think I've proven my point. Of course, there's gRAPE in the Bible that is mitigated for, that is made concession for. Ya te dije. So I've shown you that this is a particular culture that is ancient, but it's still prevalent, still going on. even though there are many wonderful people who are working to make the changes for human rights of women. And I mean, we can get into the topic of slavery as well. I did want to address that particular so-called critical study that he did, which he did not prove anything at all, according to the Bible. He didn't prove that grape isn't in the Bible. I will close with, if people didn't see Judges, I'm going to go back to Judges. According to the law, the men of Judges weren't breaking the law because these women were virgins. I'm going to close with this, because anybody telling us that rape is not condoned, made concession for, mitigated for, all of the above, and or anyone saying that, they don't know the scriptures. They don't know the scriptures, or they're being deceptive, or they're just, they have a problem. They're putting their feelings into the texts that are ancient, and they don't look at women as individuals with feelings and with a sexual autonomy. Even in Yahweh's presentation, he said the father makes the decision of a woman's sexuality, not her. Let's read this in Judges. So the backstory is that the Benjamites were getting wiped out. It was a civil war. Israelites were pretty much almost made them extinct. And there were a few left, and everybody had vowed, all the fathers, if you read this, the father's decision said, we will not give our daughters to the Benjamites. But somebody came up with a brilliant idea to have the Benjamites go gRAPE, meaning kidnap and have sex with the daughters of Shiloh. Let's start here. Let's start at 18. Judges 21, chapter 18. Howbeit, we may not give them wives of our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn, saying, cursed be he that giveth the wife to Benjamin. These are the fathers talking. 19. Then they said, behold, so one of them was like, oh, I got an idea. There be a feast of the Lord in Shiloh yearly, in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goeth up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebanon. Therefore they commanded the children of Benjamin, the men, saying, go and lie in wait in the vineyard. We know that lie in wait means to ambush. Let's get it. For those who didn't see it at the beginning, I'm going to go over it again. What does lie in wait mean? Let's see. Lie in wait.
Strong's H693. Arav.
What does arav mean? To lie in wait, to ambush, to lurk, to lie in wait, ambush, participle as subst. Okay, what is this? Ambushers, liars in wait, to lay in ambush, to lurk, to lie in wait. So you don't have to be a Bible scholar to be able to look this stuff up. You just can look it up and say, oh, lurk. So it's telling them to go lurk, hide in the bushes and wait to ambush someone. Go lie in wait in the vineyards. What else does it say? Judges 21:21 says, and see, behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance in dances, then ye come out of the vineyards and catch you every man his wife and the daughters of the daughters of Shiloh, and then go to the land of Benjamin. What does catch mean? I want to see what catch means. See, just all you got to do is look it up. What does catch mean? If you don't know the Hebrew, or you don't have a Hebrew scholar, someone who speaks Hebrew fluently, you can look it up in the blue letter. Chataf. Let's see what that means.
Strong's H2414. Chataf.
There's that word. There's that word, seize again. Seize is in tafas. Seize is in a lot of these different stories where the woman is. That's why I never looked at the word with Dinah when he said took. That word also meant seize. So, to clutch, hence to seize as a prisoner, to catch. So they weren't dancing with them. To take with in violence. It even says right here in the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, to take within violence, Judges 21:21. So they took them in violence. Let's go back. They grabbed them. They hid in the bushes and grabbed them. And it says, take them to be your wives. Go take them to be your wives. It says, and it shall be where their fathers, see, they're talking about the fathers again, always about the fathers. It didn't matter how the girls felt. What did the fathers feel? They're saying, so if the fathers and their brethren come to complain to us, see, it's not about the girls. So all the stuff about protecting women and victims, that stuff that he was saying in his presentation, that's untrue. We will say unto them, be favorable unto them for our sakes, because we reserved not to each man his wife in the war, for ye did not give unto them at this time, that ye should not be guilty. And the children of Benjamin grabbed they ambushed the women, they took them in violence by force, seized them, and they took them to, according to their number of them that danced, they took all of them, whom they caught, and they went and returned unto their inheritance and repaired the cities and dwelt in them. So they went back and had babies with them after they ambushed them and took them all inside. All right. That's about it. Peace. This was a recap, a critique of a flawed critical study on the legality of gRAPE in the Bible. It's right here. Nobody's trying to trick anybody into anything. At least I'm not from this end. I want to say peace. Thank you so much for listening. Anyone who wants to tell you that gRAPE isn't in the Bible, just tell them, listen, it's not just in the Bible. It was the entire ancient Near East that certain situations, you couldn't gRAPE anybody's wife. You couldn't gRAPE anybody's fiance because they were already chosen and taken. But you could take virgins, and they're doing it today. They're doing it today, sadly. Peace to everybody. Peace to everybody. Peace to everyone. I hope you have a nice evening, morning, weekend. All right.
Good looking now, keep getting clout. This is what it's about. We love teaching. There is no time. They programmed your mind. Construction blind. We not sleeping. Come join the love, come join the fun, and call it education. Let's get profound. Let's uncover all of the deep arcane things. Good looking out. Good looking out. Good looking out. Come join the love, come join the fun, and call it education. Let's get profound, let's uncover all of the deep arcane things. Good looking